This morning I'm going to kind of begin with a little bit of a story. I always like to tell stories in the company, and I'm kind of known for taking time to put a little bit of context to things. I used to work in Russia back in '92 to '96, and I was recently on a business trip there. As you know, just like most of you, you come to these conferences, you go to business, you wake up early in the morning, you go start meetings, you finish up about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. You've seen most of the conference room, all the art in the hotel, you know, maybe a shop to pick up a few things, and that's the way it works. What I like to do, though, is take a little time to get out and walk around in the city. So around 7, 8 o'clock at night, it's still light in Russia, so I took off from the hotel and walked over toward the Red Square. What I was really looking to do was see how people are feeling. In the States, if you watch the television, you see a lot of news about riots and protests and all kind of things all over the world, Russia included. And so what I was interested in was, what are people really feeling? Not what is CNN or some news agency trying to filter for me and give me the context for. As I walked around, it was a Friday night. I was going to be in town for the weekend. The conference was all weekend. What I noticed, even at that time of night, a lot of happy people walking around. If you've been around Red Square, you know it's kind of lucky to have wedding parties kind of go in that area. And so there are a lot of wedding parties, 4 or 5 wedding parties. People were really, really happy. And what it kind of tells you, you would ask, why would an oil and gas executive spend their time in a country just walking around and seeing things? I think what's really important for us as leaders in our industry to do is get out and see the real people. See what makes them happy. See what parts of life are really important on a daily basis. I believe it's really our role to put ourselves in the places and feel the pulse of the people. On a global level, we know what must be done, and we know what responsibilities the oil and gas and energy companies have. Today, let me just focus on really 2 things. It's really around global and local responsibilities of the energy companies. These responsibilities are really to find the global, abundant, affordable energy that the society needs, and do that in a very socially and environmentally responsible manner. We meet these responsibilities really by growing supplies, through applying technology and building partnerships. When you look up at the slide I've got, 250 million barrels of oil every day is the equivalent of all forms of energy, whether it's oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear, or renewable energy in a lot of different forms. The challenge is that we need to further find the next set of resources that will continue to feed the global demand, which is projected to rise between 40% and 50% by 2035. Based on our past experience on projecting demand, I would say that range should be a lot larger. Rapid urbanization and rising incomes will lead to increasing energy demand both from the countryside to the cities as incomes continue to rise. Globally, urban populations will increase by nearly 1.8 billion people by 2035. That's going to be like adding another China and the European Union to all the world's cities, and then providing these new residents with enough fuel for their homes and their vehicles. Billions of people are counting us to do that as an industry, to produce the fuel to either lift them out of poverty or to continue improving their living standards. Massive investments will need to come about to make this happen. The IEA has estimated that nearly $40 trillion of investment will be needed in all forms of energy between 2011 and 2035. This is the equivalent of 400 Apollo moon missions. I use that as an analogy because of the high-tech nature people attribute to space travel. I also see our industry just as high-tech. We also, as an industry, I believe, welcome new challenges. And at the time when many industries are suffering under global economic strains, the energy industry is proud to be providing jobs and much-needed investment across the globe. We see ourselves as a growth engine for the global economy. Technology. How do we fuel this growth engine? The energy industry is fueled by that technology. Technology not only allows deployment of new resources and development, it also allows us to recover more of the existing resources we have in the form of efficiently and economically and safely providing that production. It enables us to produce cleaner burning fuels and reduces our overall environmental footprints. Technology has driven and continues to drive advancements throughout the industry. Advances such as deep water, 3D seismic, horizontal drilling, and yes, fracking. These advances have advanced our understanding of the subsurface and keep energy affordable and abundant. As we push into these new frontiers, this pictorial is about a little bit before my career started, but it gives an indication of what's happened just in the last 33 years. When I was first employed in Chevron in 1979, I started out my business in the drilling department. And so a bunch of the examples around drilling. I first started working on a platform rig in very shallow water that had some very unique capabilities at the time where we could drill to around 6,000 feet subsea. That seemed like a lot at the time. These days, it's nothing. I walk on the floor of a drilling rig and it looks like a moon mission or a moon ship. Multiple masks, multiple operations going on at one time, capable of drilling in 12 to 14,000 feet of water and to depths greater than 30,000 feet below the mud line. So we're operating in all these different new frontiers. We're drilling into rocks that are tightly packed, so tightly packed that only the geologists believe there's anything there. And we're getting better at predicting where those resources are. Dry holes as a percentage of total U.S. exploration has fallen 75% since the 1970s to less than 40% today. Wouldn't be a presentation that an engineer would make without a few squiggly lines. This has been made possible by the advance in earth modeling, seismic imaging, but also computing power brought in by other industries. This has definitely helped in our risk profiling and our portfolio analysis as well. At Chevron, we're constantly looking for new technology, on the new application for existing technology, or to grow supplies in our core business, oil and natural gas production. For example, we've found new ways to use decades-old refining technology to process heavier fuels in places like Venezuela and Canada. On top of that, we continue to work on a variety of next-generation advances with partners worldwide, including the National Renewable Energy Lab, NASA, and others. Renewable energy. We're investing in profitable renewable energy and greater energy efficiency. We're the industry's largest producer of renewable energy because we're the world's largest producer of geothermal energy. This is a renewable resource that uses the power of steam from the earth to generate electricity while producing almost no greenhouse emissions. The business is anchored in Indonesia and the Philippines, in the Ring of Fire, and we're looking to expand it as we speak. In addition to finding new sources, we put a premium on energy saved and look for ways to apply technology to conserve energy. Efficiency is the world's cheapest source of new energy. Chevron has achieved a 34% improvement in its own energy efficiency across our global operations since 1992. On average, Chevron Energy Solutions helps its industrial and government customers save more than 30% of its energy per project. We recognize that finding new sources of supply and conserving energy are not something that we can do alone. It requires building partnerships at every level in our business. We closely partner with businesses, local governments, and communities in all the places that we operate to ensure we're meeting the needs of our local hosts. Let me give you a few examples. In Angola, Chevron is the biggest foreign oil industry employer. 3,100 people are on staff that are Angolans there. Over 90% of our population are Angolan. Since 1989, we've invested more than $180 million in community programs and not-for-profit partnerships in Angola. Last year alone, we spent $20 million on these social projects. One of these is focused on reducing the tight grip of sickle cell anemia in Angola. Last year, Chevron began a $4 million project to help test and treat sickle cell patients. We're also working on malaria, HIV/AIDS, breast cancer, to name a few. And we're investing in everything from libraries to landmine education, to training secondary students and how to become entrepreneurs. We truly roll up our sleeves when we enter the community and find out what we can do to help. In Indonesia, we feel each country has its own special needs. In Indonesia, for example, we've rebuilt schools damaged by earthquakes, designed new buildings to resist earthquakes and act as a shelter during an earthquake. We've taught more than 25,000 students in West Java about how to prevent HIV/AIDS. We've helped to fund polytechnic schools in Aceh and Riau provinces to train students in robotics, information technology, and accounting. The first class at Aceh graduated last year. Their job prospects looks good. In 10 years since Riau Polytechnic began, about 75% of the students have found work within 3 months of graduating. We support the community in other ways. Nearly $135 million have been invested so far on social programs in our more than 80 years in Indonesia. One area Chevron is focusing on is preserving and restoring the forests around our projects. The pipelines accommodate animal crossings and find minimal tree removal during any kind of installations for wells or pipelines. On top of that, we began to plant trees to restore cut down trees that were cut down for farming. We call slash and burn farming. Over 30,000 trees have been planted so far, and we've committed to plant 250,000 trees over the next 5 years. I'm sure you hear a lot about LNG, and this is a picture of our Gorgon opportunity. Let me take you to Australia and discuss Gorgon LNG. It's a project on Barrow Island that you see pictured here, a world-class nature reserve. There, our hosts wanted us to focus on preserving the environment. Gorgon will have the world's largest carbon dioxide injection and sequestration project with over 3.5 million metric tons per year of carbon dioxide injection. As it's being built, one of the world's largest quarantine management systems to protect the environmentally sensitive area from non-invasive species. Let me explain a quarantine management system. On my recent trip to Gorgon, it was very interesting to be a part of. The quarantine system is comprised of more than 300 procedures and specifications, checklists, and guidelines. It includes washing, drying, and shrink wrapping all equipment destined for the island to guard against contamination, either before, during, or after transport. More than 110,000 tons of freight have already been shipped to Barrow Island. More than 38,000 people have been flown there without introducing a single non-native species. We expect the working limit of our environmental footprint that will increasingly be important to host countries and host governments around the world. When you talk about partnership, partnering with local government and communities to meet the need of those host communities and countries is an integral part of the process. We also partner with fellow energy companies, NOCs, IOCs, independents, and service companies to ensure we have the best ideas and technology on any given project. Partnering with NOCs is crucial. Their share of the world's technically recoverable reserves is huge. NOCs hold 80% of the global oil and gas reserves on an OEG basis. What Chevron brings to these partnerships is the right people, the latest technology, a track record of delivering excellence on a range of projects, and of partnering with the communities. In an industry event, we couldn't go without talking about safety. Industry in general, over the past few years, have underlined the importance of safety to improve processes and procedures in everything from deep water drilling to producing natural gas from shale. The energy business carries risk that we all work hard to mitigate every single day. We know each incident raises fears about safety and the industry and leads to barriers of access. That's why at Chevron, we work according to the Chevron way, which is getting results the right way. Our competitors have similar operating standards. All it takes is 1 teaspoon of oil in the water to dampen the support from the public for our industry. This is why no slip, no trip, no fall, no drop of oil on land or water, no release of natural gas, or especially no injury goes uninvestigated. Our goal at Chevron is 0 incidents, and we believe that's attainable. We don't rest at all until we do. Being a responsible operator is key to maintaining access to resources. A great example of this is the development of the natural gas shale industry. This is a huge resource. There's shale opportunities in almost every continent. The EIA estimates there to be around 6,600 TCF of global gas shale resource. Yet it's unclear exactly how all this will be produced. Some communities are throwing up barriers, fearing the impact that it will have on the environment or their social issues in the community. We know the production processes are safe. We've been using hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling for decades. We also know a company's reputation is only as good as the last well it drilled, the last refinery it operated, or the last liter of petroleum it sold at one of its stations or outlets. And so as an industry, in partnership with local government and communities, we must keep our standards high and always strive to do better. It's all part of the meeting, the global and local responsibilities of an energy company to provide abundant and affordable energy in a socially and environmentally responsible manner. I take this responsibility personally. It's why I fly to some of the dozen countries each year. It certainly isn't for the frequent flyer miles, that's for sure, though I do accumulate a lot. It's in the personal interactions I have with the people on the ground in the countries all over the world that tells me what Chevron should be doing to improve their lives. It gives me a chance to sneak out on the streets like I did in Moscow just a couple of weeks ago. See things how they really are, not just how they are in a boardroom. Attempt to figure out what are the next set of issues that we need to deal with as leaders of this industry. what are the different things we should do, and what are the different ways we can employ and learn from other industries on how to do that. Because it's very key. We all want access to abundant, affordable energy to heat and cool our homes, power our iPhones, flat screen TVs, and so we can watch a soccer match or two. Affordable energy can make that happen, and it's our responsibility as an industry to deliver just that. Thank you for listening.